Dette e-postlab sin podcast for gründere som bruker e-postmarkedsføring.
Hello, Brennan. It's nice to have you. Thank you for coming to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
For those who don't know who you are, maybe you can tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Brennan Dunn. I'm the founder of doubleyourfreelancing.com, and we help freelancers understand the business behind their business. So that's the shorthand, but beyond that, I've got a few conferences, as you know, Ken. I've got multiple courses and products helping freelancers, but I also consult. I'm also a automation consultant, which I think we'll talk a bit about later.
Yeah, definitely. So, but you probably did start out with Double Your Freelancing. So, could you tell us a little about the journey from where you started and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So, back, I always get the dates wrong, but I think it was mid-2006, I decided to go out and freelance full-time. So I was working in an agency at the time, and I wanted to kind of do my own thing. I started out just as a contract developer, so I wasn't really consulting in the proper sense, but I was getting paid, to contract. And it was nice to have a few clients that built up, and I got to the point where I could either start turning away work or I could grow a team. Okay. So I kind of accidentally grew an agency. We got it to 11 employees, doing a few million a year in revenue. And then I decided I wanted to try my hand out in building my own software. So we built apps for other people, and I wanted to build my own. Yeah. So I started a tool called PlanScope, and it's a project management tool for freelancers and agencies. And with software, kind of the conventional wisdom is to do content marketing to get new customers. Yeah. So I started writing about freelancing and pricing and marketing and things that I knew about, having grown my agency. And lo and behold, that became more successful than PlanScope itself, because out of that came a lot of the things that we're doing now at Double Your Freelancing. So early in 2016, I actually sold PlanScope, and now I'm full-time on this.
Awesome. But I remember you talked about you doubling down on Double Your Freelancing. How has that been for you?
It's been great. Yeah, I mean, just like there's still some stuff I'm trying to simplify, both by delegating things I shouldn't be doing, and just like, for instance, I've offloaded all of my email. So I have a really hard time between the push-pull of like customer support and creation. So I've gotten a lot of the support, the basic support stuff off my plate. And on top of that, I've just been trying to focus on really just doing what I do best, which is, I think, helping teach people consulting fundamentals. Yeah. And yeah, it's been wild. I mean, we've done, as you know, we're gearing up now for our second European conference. This will be our fourth conference. We've done so we can do retreats now, which are kind of like smaller, little, more intimate conferences. Yeah. Was that the first one you did? The one in... We've done two now. We've done one in Colorado and one in Bangkok, which we just, So, no, that's really cool. I've seen massive growth in everything that you've done from when you started saying you was going to double down on it, and it's just grown exponentially really fast. Yeah. It's been fun. Yeah. Awesome. So, okay, you had a lot of success, but I'm pretty sure you probably failed at some point. You want to tell us a story about that? Which point? Too many to choose from. Yeah, I mean, I grew a company, my agency, without focusing on. I thought all I had to do was just get smart people to work together, and it would be great. Didn't really care. I thought like the whole idea of like company culture was a bit too fluffy for my. I didn't really put too much stock into that. I hired too quickly. With PlanScope, I made a lot of assumptions about who the product was for and overestimated its growth or growth potential. With DYF, Double Your Freelancing, I've made mistakes when it comes to focus, when it comes to bring on the wrong people who just weren't who just weren't bringing the company in the right direction. There's been a lot of issues. The biggest thing that hit me financially was my agency days back when I wasn't billing upfront. Instead, we were doing net 30 payment terms.
Okay.
And we had a client who basically ran out of money but neglected to tell us, and we just kept billing him. And ended up with $100,000 in invoices that never got paid.
Oh.
And our margins were pretty tight. I mean, they were good, but I mean, we had overhead. We had significant overhead. So at the time, I wasn't financially prepared for a setback that big. So I was out calling up every friend of mine, begging for money, needing to tell my employees, like, I might not be able to pay you, and tell employees that their paycheck might not come, and they start thinking like the whole ship is sinking. Yeah, it was quite a bit of stress there.
Yeah, definitely.
That taught me the importance of cash flow and having money in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Would you have done anything differently than what you have done?
Yeah, I just changed. From then on out, everything was upfront. So we didn't offer people 30 days of credit. We got paid and then we delivered the product. That was a big change. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I ask this question to a lot of people, and there's a lot of talk about hustling and getting stuff done and all that stuff, but it seems to be a little bit of talk about balance between life and work. How do you do that?
I mean, yeah, let's define what hustle is, like working crazy hours and like being overly confident. I mean, yeah, that can help, but I think it's the bigger issue there is this fetishization of business, where I've heard it best described as entreporn.
I saw that earlier today. I saw it earlier today on Twitter. You mentioned something about that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't put too much stock into the whole I mean, don't get me wrong. Gary Vaynerchuk is a very successful, good guy. Has a lot of good things to say, but and again, I don't know him well enough, but I know a lot of his people who really admire him are very big on like the, if like work. I mean, I think I've got the foresight to realize that people who get to the end of their life and look back and seeing that all they did was work to the neglect of everyone they cared about in their life, probably end up regretting it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. I totally agree with you on that one, though. Okay, let's try to talk about a little bit about email marketing now.
Some more fun stuff.
Yeah. When
email marketing done right means you don't need to hustle as much.
Yeah. When did you start working with email marketing? I mean, it must have been a few years back then.
Well, I guess you could say officially it was when my agency days where we were building up a local audience.
Yeah.
We did occasional emails. We had some basic autoresponders that were put in place for people who would attend events of ours that would just drip out after, but I didn't know the terminology or any of this stuff that I know now, I guess. Got a little better when I think where it started to really become a big thing where my list became an asset was back when I wrote initially Double Your Freelancing Rate, when the first version was a little ebook PDF. I pre-sold it and I didn't like the idea of taking money without giving anything in return. So I started emailing the early customer list weekly with kind of what I was writing. So it became like effectively a weekly newsletter. And then after the book shipped, I was like, okay, well, I'm done that, right? And or I thought I was, but then I realized I could just keep that up and keep sending these emails weekly, and people seem to like them. Yeah. And then I got somebody emailing me who was a customer saying, hey, my friend wants to get these emails. Is there a way he can sign up for it?
Okay, so you didn't have any sign up at that point.
No. So I did that, and then I started getting a little more sophisticated. I think when I moved to Infusionsoft, and I had more things that MailChimp afforded. And then nowadays, I've kind of really gone off the deep end with playing with tools like Drip and just applying my engineering background to what is possible with platforms like Drip and just automating all the things. So yeah, I mean, it's all kind of learn on the go, I guess. Yeah.
Let me ask you: have you ever been offered a job to work with Drip, for Drip? I mean. For lead pages?
For lead pages, yes.
Yeah.
But not for, it wouldn't, it's more for one of their other products.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I mean, yeah. You know so much about Drip, I would be surprised if they didn't ask.
Yeah, I think I'm more valuable to them on the outside.
Yeah, that's maybe true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a lot of subscribers on your list. How many do you have on that list today?
38,000 right now.
Okay. How would you say, was it difficult to get the first 1,000 subscribers?
It was linear. I mean, it's like, I mean, now I'm adding about 2,000 a month, but that's just because as my subscriber base grows, there's obviously more word of mouth potential, but there's also, I'm organically doing better on my site, so I rank better for different things, which means more traffic, which means more opt-ins. I've also learned a bunch more about ways to get more opt-ins, which has helped. But yeah, I mean, early on it was, I think some of the best advice I read around this has been from people like Nathan Barry and Brian Harris, who talk about reaching out to the network you have now and that all of us have, and starting from that, seeding it that way, getting maybe 100 people through just going through your Gmail and looking at your sent folder and seeing who you've emailed and saying, hey, I'm going to be writing on this subject, or I have a email course. I think you'd get a lot out of it. Can I add you to it? So yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's hard in the sense that first off, it's, you're probably not that experienced in doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of email marketing if you don't have a huge list of your own. So there's imposter syndrome you're battling with. There's, is anyone reading? I know for a fact when I started doing a lot of content for PlanScope at the time, I'd write articles for my blog and I'd be like, is anyone actually reading this? And I do it hoping that maybe Google picked it up. But it gets a lot easier now when I know I can write an article today, hit a button, and close to 40,000 people get that article, and it satisfies me as a content creator more so than if it was going out to a handful of people. Now that being said, I know a lot of people with smaller lists, sub 1,000 people lists that are super high quality. Yeah. I mean, my list, the value, for instance, I know to the dollar is about $23 per subscriber, 500 something per customer. But I know smaller lists with much higher per subscriber valuations. So, I mean, I don't think it's a size competition as much as it's like, if you're a consultant and you're selling like 50K projects, you don't need a huge list. Exactly. Because you can only do so much.
Yeah. So it's definitely quality before quantity.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I guess email marketing is quite important in your business today. How important is it? I mean, it's the core for the business, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most valuable asset I own.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's I mean, virtually all the revenue that comes in comes from either, one-off broadcast campaigns or automation that just does its thing that I set up once and it just keeps printing money. So yeah. Yeah. It's valuable.
Exactly. You have a lot of automation set up. So do you have more automation set up than you do broadcast, or is it like 50-50 or?
Well, I mean, broadcast I really just do for try to be weekly newsletter.
Okay.
Every other email that goes out is due to some sort of automation. I would prefer the broadcasts are useful for like live things like announcing the upcoming conference or something like that, right? Whereas you can do a lot with, like for instance, for the first 2 months when you join my list, the newsletters you're getting are preset. Like they're not live, they're not new articles that I just wrote, which is nice because that's automation delivering the same value as a newsletter historically, but without me needing to be on that hamster wheel of clicking new broadcasts again and again.
Yeah. All right. Let's try to dig a little bit more into like segmenting and personalization, automation, all that stuff, because that's your forte.
Yeah.
What does segmenting your list mean?
So all that means is that not every subscriber is the same person, which shouldn't shock anyone. For me, it means a few things. It means I'm able to group people based off what they've consumed, like what podcast do they listen to my podcast, what kind of articles do they read. That gives me a clear indicator of kind of what topics they're interested in. So are they more interested in marketing? Are they more interested in starting a business? Are they more interested in pricing? So that's the first factor. The second is demographics. So, where are they located maybe? How big is their team? What kind of work do they do? What's their revenue annually? And the third would be, in my case, purchase history. So what have they bought? What haven't they bought? And so that's how I segment. But I mean, it's usually some combination of those three. The first one is more passive. It's more based off your behavior. Here's how you're being profiled. The middle is more active. It's, you can say, I do, I'm a marketer and I am in Norway. And I mean, some of that I can get, like Norway, that you're Norway, but other things you need to tell me. And then the other one is, I guess it's more behavioral based, but it's more like transactions. Like, what have you bought? You've gone to the conference and, the Swedish conference and, all that other stuff. Right. So that's how I segment. And that gives me a good indication of, like, for instance, if I'm emailing somebody if I want to send somebody an email on business, like, businessy things, right? If somebody's looking to start a business, they have different needs than somebody who's looking to scale a business. So it's really just the idea of, if you're thinking of email automation as being like you going into Gmail and writing an email to an individual, which is basically what's happening. You're sending an email out to an individual. I wouldn't go and email you and try to talk to everyone on the planet. I'd email you knowing what I know about you. Yeah. Like, I'd email you based off our existing relationship, and that would affect what I put in the email. So it's really just a matter of, the more you know about somebody, how can you then come up with one-off emails that are personalized based off of them, so that the email, the message you're sending them relates better to them. So if you're selling something, let's say, you want to make sure that you know what somebody wants from a product like yours, so that you can position your product to be the fulfillment of that desire, right? So, and that just all ties back to being able to segment out or, group together this list into different kind of groupings that do overlap, right? Yeah.
So you basically use the segmenting tools to make personalized emails. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really just, I mean, by segmenting, all I'm doing is I'm technically putting custom fields and tags on people. And then with my automation, I'm basically just saying, if they have this tag, do this, otherwise do that. Yeah. And
this ties back to the automation thing that you got set up.
Yeah. And you can get super complicated where you have like all these different if-thens. Yeah. And with each drill down, you can get a little more, like, so for instance, I had this workflow that all it does is say, look at their team size and what they do, and it comes up with language that they would use. So, if you go in this and you're a solo marketer, it's going to say freelance marketer is who you are. Whereas if you're a design agency, what's going to be spit out in emails will be, I know design agencies like you care about ... But if you got the email, it might say, I know freelance marketers like you care about ... And it just makes it more relatable to the recipient.
1 second, I just gotta say goodnight to the daughter.
Okay. Hey.
Nata. Okay, Nata. Sorry about that.
Like, who's the weird American?
Exactly. Sorry, we lost kind of touch there. We're talking about the workflows and automation. But okay, when you talk about personalization, a lot of people think about subscriber's first name, and that's pretty much it. But there's so much more you can do, right?
Yeah, I mean that's like baseline. That's just variable substitution. That's like mail merging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that does work, obviously. But what's more interesting to me is being able to say, "Hey, I know you like, you're a designer, and you are, you run an agency." So this example that I'm about to include in this article of mine or this email of mine, I'm going to have it be about design agencies like you, so that when you read that, you're like, oh, I get this. Versus because I mean, that's been the biggest complaint people have had before I did a lot of personalization, which was they would go through my email course and they would see something along the lines of, hey, I'm an engineer, so I would give examples about software development. And then you get a photographer going through it, and they're like, maybe this isn't for me. And then
because they can't relate to it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the way I look at it is it's kind of like niching on demand. We all know the benefits of niching. We all know the benefits of having strong positioning. And usually the traditional kind of wisdom is just to say, well, yeah, I mean, go and build a product for, a pricing product for photographers, right? So that would be that's a great thing to do. But I have a product that helps people with pricing, but it could be used for designers, it could be used for photographers, it could be used for developers, it could be used for really anyone who sells to other businesses. Yeah. But a developer is going to look at a product positioned for designers and say, this is not for me. There's too much, I don't know if I'll benefit from this. Mm-hmm. And conversely, a designer is going to look at one for developers and say, I don't think this is for me. So what I do is I'm able to personalize the sales page and say, I know you're a developer. Therefore, I'm going to show testimonials from other developers. I'm going to change the language to be more developer focused. I'm going to use developer examples. And it's just niching your marketing. Whereas the product, what it is you're selling, doesn't necessarily need to be niche. Now, master level is to be able to niche that too. Yeah. And say once they buy, then niche that down.
Well, are you basically writing different types of email, or are you just using, I know you use drip, so you use liquid templating, but do you use liquid templating, or are you actually writing out different type of emails?
Sometimes I will do. Sometimes I've done whole decision trees that will say, send this email with their designer, send that email with their developer. Mm-hmm. If the subject's, because nothing's worse than with drip, at least, you have a text input for the subject, and then if you have 7 conditions, even though the subject accepts liquid, that's going to be a really messy input area, right? Okay. Whereas it's sometimes easier just to say, here's the email for developers, here's the one for designers. But oftentimes I'll do it in line if it makes more sense. If I'm not, doing if I'm not sending a wildly different email per person, Yeah. Sometimes you just want to change a paragraph, or something. Yeah. So,
do you think that people can segment too much, to basically have too much information, or is it better to just have?
You can never have too much info. I think some people collect info without acting on info, which I think is problematic.
Yeah.
But that being said, I collect a lot of info that I don't act on yet, but I get it all typed into tools like Mixpanel, and I'm able to drill down in Mixpanel and see valuations per segment, funnel reports, stuff a certain segment, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And how does all this benefits you in your business?
So for instance, I know designers or developers are worth twice as much as designers if they're on my list. So developers worth about $40-something, a designer's $23. Uh-huh. So what that tells me is, it tells me 2 things. First off, I should get more developers right now. Yeah. Secondly, I should figure out how I can make what I'm doing more beneficial to designers. Now, maybe designers just aren't as valuable, don't pay for things as much as developers. That might be a fact too. Yeah. But that tells me 2 things. I should get more of these people now because they're worth more, and I should find out how to increase the value of this segment. Yeah. So that's the kind of data that I can act on that. I can then have that Facebook ads I'm running.
Exactly. So yeah, because you can probably do something better with the text that you're writing off in emails or automation emails with designers to make them convert better.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That's pretty much it for automation, segmenting, personalization that I had. But do you have any last tips on email marketing in general? Something that people should take action on today?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I found most people do a very poor job of segmentation. So maybe the best way to come up with segments is to actually, like, for instance, add to your autoresponders, your first email that goes out, like a PS, hey, tell me a bit about like what you do. Because I learned kind of all the questions I would ask people from more free-form data like that. And then over time, I started to get kind of a master list of like, these are all the types of people who join my list. These are the kind of companies, like this is what they're looking for in my, from DYF. And now I ask people after I have this data, those kind of targeted questions. I would say just, bake into what you're doing now, these kind of automated feedback loops where people are going to reply to emails with like answers to questions that you can then take those answers and come up with segments from. Yeah.
We would also recommend people just getting started with tagging, segmenting as soon as possible. And even if you don't act on it right now, you at least have the information so you can act on it later.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. If you could recommend like one book or something that people should read, what would that be?
A good one that I reread recently, or not recently, but a few months ago, recently enough, is Selling the Invisible. I forgot who wrote it, but it's basically about how to sell services where there's not like a tangible product people can hold.
Okay.
That was
interesting. Is that something you get on Amazon, probably?
Yep.
Yeah. What's the best way to connect with you if people want to get to know you later on?
doubleyourfreelancing.com is my site. Free pricing course is one of my most popular email courses. Mm-hmm. And if you just want to say hi, Brennan Dunn on Twitter.
Yep. Awesome. And before we end the show, what's the plan for Double Your Freelancing for the next 3 to 6 months? Yeah,
I'm doing a lot more with automation. I'm going to be trying to ship my new book that I've been working on. And just really simplifying wherever possible. So really streamlining operations, making it so like a lot of what I do now is just in time. Like when I send out a new newsletter or like a broadcast newsletter, it's usually something I just wrote that week. I'd love to have a backlog of this stuff so that when I'm traveling or a conference is going on or something, it still goes out even if I'm not physically around to like create, So having that kind of backlog is something I want to do.
Yeah. Are you doing anything more with the W Freelancing, expanding on products or services?
New version of Mastering Project Roadmaps is coming out in about a month. The book, which is going to be big, is coming, and that's going to be more of a focus on people who are not yet freelancing. Okay. That'll be out in a few months, and then, it's not about it. I'm trying to just refine. I don't want to necessarily just create for the sake of creation. No. The biggest thing I did recently is, the drip course.
Yeah.
And that's our first kind of adventure into skill augmentation, because historically everything we've done has been helping businesses with, get better business. And now we're creating tools that help consultants be more valuable consultants by giving them skills that are in high demand, like marketing automation. Yeah. So maybe do one on sales copywriting, maybe later this year, but I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, it sounds interesting. Looking forward to see what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining the show. And good luck with everything this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
No problem. Take care.
Yep.